It seems that we've got government bonds, yields on which have been rising recent weeks, winning the tug-of-war against equities, for now at least.
Well, clearly we've had this enormous spike in yields across the entire yield curve, and what I've noticed is there seems to be a lot of money being parked in the very, very short end of the curve. The 3-month Treasury bills, for example, were very oversubscribed. So I think what you got, people are uncertain about the direction. In particular, there's a great deal of concern around the fate of the shilling, and I think that they're playing a safety first game at the moment. The stock market, to me, doesn't look expensive, it looks cheap, but I think we need some kind of bedding down in the volatility we're seeing in Kenyan assets before we see a turn higher in the stock exchange.
Of course, while we wait, we are seeing factors pulling in the opposite direction. The high interest rate scenario just really heightening the preference for government-listed securities when compared to stocks. What's your outlook in that regard, where inflation is still a problem and we've got the general weakness that we've seen on the currency front, certainly not doing favors to that inflationary picture either?
Well, I think, we're being punished for being behind the curve in the first quarter of the year, where the central bank actually cut rates ahead of the inflationary surge that came subsequently, and then became very, and was actually very, remained behind the curve, has been incremental in its approach. Unlike Nigeria, where Sanusi came in, raised 150 basis points in 2 goes, and caught the market off guard. And there are further complications around the shilling in that they're saying at the central bank they have to buy hard currency. So in effect, they continue to be the biggest seller of the shilling, and that's going to keep that under pressure. Interest rates, I think, have the market's already moved. It's moved ahead of the central bank. It's taken charge of the interest rate curve. And I think we're going to see continued uncertainty around the direction of interest rates until market participants feel that the central bank has caught up, and that moment is some ways off at the moment.
Of course, it's that entire picture that's keeping the local investor on the back foot. We have seen a foreign investor waning to a slight extent over the course of this week as well. How are you reading that picture? Because it's that foreign investor segment that has been offering the bulk of the support over the recent past to the overall market.
Well, I think it's I expect them to maintain the sort of activity that we've seen since the beginning of the year. I think we're seeing a macro level move into African equities. I think the global investors were underinvested against the benchmark, and we're going to continue to see increased flow in, and particularly the likes of East African breweries seem to be getting a lot of that flow. But this week, I think that all the uncertainty around the shilling, the interest rates, has put buyers on hold as they watch how things pan out. It's become a bit of a wait-and-see scenario. But obviously, we got some good stories playing out, like Kenol Kobel yesterday, more positive news from Safaricom, and those are seeing the bulk of the activity.
Let's drill down into those stories. Safaricom to start off with, because it's that partnership that we're seeing having emerged with Orange that's lending the share price support. And as I was saying earlier, it removes the risk of depreciation from their books at this stage of the game. How are you seeing this partnership follow through?
Well, I think they're both, their interests coincide completely in reducing costs. Both have been suffering from competition from Bharti Airtel. I think they're looking to optimize balance sheet usage, and this is a good example of such an outcome. I think investors continue to underestimate Bob Collimore's intent when it comes to the cost base, and I think we'll continue to see a string of good news. Don't forget about the standstill in the reduction in interconnection calling rates, which was also helpful to Safaricom.
Of course, when it comes to Safaricom, it's that 4 shilling mark that has proven to be a tough resistance. And even though we see, these knee-jerk reactions to positive news, taking it above that mark, it always proves a tough feat staying above. So what's it going to take to get Safaricom on a more sustainable path moving forward in terms of upward movement on that share price?
I think it's been a very long, drawn-out basing process. Safaricom traded at 360 52-week low in March. We are just 40 cents above that level, just over 10%. But I think essentially the share price has based out here. I think the downside risk is now minimal. and I think we're looking at a move through 4 very, very soon. I mean, if you look at the supply and demand dynamic, that continues to move towards a disequilibrium, with demand outperforming supply by a factor of 2 to 1. I think a move through 4 is imminent.
Of course, when it comes to Kenol Cobalt, we've seen positive news filter through from their end as well. Expansion plans expected to boost first half profit by over 50%. It really seems that that regional strategy paying off, Ali Khan, at a time most particularly where we've had multinational operations within that fuel retailing segment moving out of the continent.
Yes, these guys have been very smart. They've got a very switched on management. They're able to navigate what are quite treacherous waters, as evidenced by the fact so many multinationals hit the exit button. They've picked up the pieces. They've grown the regional franchise. It's very well managed. It's on a P of 8.6. They've given us earnings guidance of a 50% uplift at the half-year mark. I really see considerable upside in this share, and I think people underestimate it because of the noise around the Kenyan fuel sector, which is highly inefficient and prone to all kinds of situations. But these guys have broken out of the box. They've got a good strategy, and the numbers are beginning to confirm the value of the share price. I'm a bull on this stock.
Well, some other good news surrounds Williamson Tea. I mean, it's one of the players that has really stood out over the last couple of trading sessions. On Friday, rallying 7.5%. It added a further 10% earlier this week. It's trading at 220 shillings on a PE of around 2. And it seems that it's all in anticipation of full year numbers there, Ali Khan.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, this is a no-brainer stock, really. I mean, you can just sit in there and wait your 2 years out, because they're in fact going to make more money than they made last year, because they've sold more tea, I believe, and they've also got this wonderful FX translation gain because of the weak shilling. It's an egregiously priced share. It has a tremendous amount of headroom, and it just needs a catalyst. And I think these full year results might well be the catalyst. The issue will be management's dividend payout ratio. They were very mean last time. They paid less than 6% of their EPS, but there were reasons around that. I expect an incredibly fat dividend this time to juice a share price move, which could go to a PE of 5 or around there, which gives us a target of about 500 shillings.
Of course, we've got Safaricom's dividend payout ratio of 61 sitting as a strong marker.
Correct.
Do you anticipate a payback to that extent?
Well, I think it's completely necessary, and I think if management does not make a payout to that extent, then we've really got to ask them some questions. Tea companies are not growth stocks as such, although this is an example of one which is very undervalued and therefore is a growth stock. But essentially, these are mature businesses who have to have a more aggressive payout strategy. Williamson Tea has not to date, but if they don't have an aggressive payout strategy this time around, it will be probably a debacle for the share price.